Hi friends, I'm Julia and this is Julia at Home, and today's video is going to be about ancient China and the resources we used for our ancient China unit. This was done within our ancient history study that I did with my first grader and my preschooler. I will have the other videos I've done in this series linked below as well. There should be ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and ancient Rome will be coming next. As usual, I'm going to start with the books. We were using Story of the World. And this is volume 1, Ancient Times. And if I just show you in here, there's actually, China is spread out a little bit. It's in chapter 10 here. And then also chapters 32 and 33. I think that was all of them. And I just waited. So I skipped this early chapter at the beginning when we were there and saved it and did them all together as part of our ancient China unit. And I also used some of the maps and coloring pages in the back of here. There's actually also tangrams, and I'll come back to tangrams in a little bit. So I used the activity book as well. In addition, I actually also used history quests. So I got this maybe halfway into the year, maybe a little bit more than halfway into the year, and we didn't do the whole thing. But it's similar to Story of the World, but it's not. The chapters are a little longer, and it's from a secular point of view. So that's the difference with this. This is from Pandya Press, and they should be coming out with their Middle Ages or Medieval Times this fall. And so what I like about this that I just want to show you quickly when we did this, we did China, so that it combines China here in part 1, part 2. Let's see if I can go there for you. And it has history hops. Now, the history hops are the part of this I like the best. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. I also didn't necessarily go in order in this book. So you can see for each chapter, there's some pictures in here as well, but they're a little longer and they're not broken up into the sections as Story of the World is. And then they have this history hop where you travel back in time. And this one's about the Silk Mother. And I really liked this story. You're talking to somebody in the time period. So it's like you travel back in time. So I used this and Story of the World both as our spines. If you've seen my other videos, you'll have seen this before. I keep using this. There is a page on ancient China in here as well. There it is. So we used that. Now these are stories. So I used this kind of like I would use mythology. Like I read in our ancient Egypt study, I read Egyptian mythology, ancient Greek mythology during our Greece unit. And so this is what I used. I had trouble finding really a Chinese mythology book per se, but this was actually, the kids really enjoyed this. This is the Qilin Purse, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing any of this correctly. I apologize. And it's a collection of ancient Chinese stories, and they're not super long, so I just included them in our morning time. This is not something I would have the kids read to themselves, but they made some great read alouds. So that was just one there. And so I actually found these a really good length. Most of them, I think 1 or 2 might have been a little bit longer. And this is the Qilin. There is a mythological creature in China. And so the kids, that really captured their imagination. And so they did some drawings of that as well. And I think it comes up again in the Confucius book, which I'll get to. This is the Master Swordsman and the Magic Doorway, which are 2 legends from ancient China, as they say. So, and this is a used book, hence the library thing. I get a lot of my books used. So it just has each of the stories, and I like the pictures. To me, they're evocative of Chinese art. And these are, they're legends, so they often have, morals to them. And I thought they were I thought they were good stories. And honestly, I think this would just be a good addition to a picture bookshelf for preschoolers. Like older preschoolers, I think would enjoy that. So that's just 2 stories combined in one. I think we did them on different days, but I can't really remember. So you could do it both in one day or just different days. And again, I included this in morning time. This one is cool. We read through this one. It's got, so Ancient China. So the Chinese invented so much of what we use today, and there's a lot of things that they were using way before the Europeans, you know, invented them on their own as well. And so it was really fun to read more about that. And this is also stuff that you can, like, this could give you really good ideas for activities as well. I decided not to do additional activities just because of time and having a toddler and my energy level. But this, yeah, these are really fun ideas. Well, this in itself, it doesn't give you ideas on how to make things, but it could just be a really good jumping off point. For example, it would be really fun to taste test tea. Earlier you saw there was the clock. You could make a water clock. There's silk there, learning about silkworms. So there's just so many things that this book could be a jumping off point for. And it's not very long. So you can see these words are pretty big. So it's good for the, like, it's good for this preschool, early elementary age group. So one of the main things we learned about when we learned about ancient China is the first emperor. And I don't think I want to try to pronounce his name right now. So he started the Great Wall. It continued on being built through many emperors and for many, many years. But he was the one who originally came up with the idea. So I learned about him in conjunction with the Great Wall and also the Terracotta Warrior. So these are some books on this. This is a Magic Treehouse book, which, you know, they're not the best quality literature. My kids really enjoy them, and it really does. It's a good entry point into that world, and it's also good if you have second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth graders, for them to read on their own, depending on their reading level and interest. But my daughter, we did this when she was in first grade, and just at the beginning of second grade, as I'm filming this now, she started from the beginning reading through them. We have quite a collection because I get them for units, and then my father gifts them to the kids in like little, a couple at a time. So we have quite the collection of Magic Treehouse books, and she is working on reading through them. So if you have a child that's interested in history and is at kind of this early chapter book point in reading, these are really good. And this is just Day of the Dragon King, so they go back and they actually meet the scary emperor. There's You Wouldn't Want to Work on the Great Wall of China. My children also love these You Wouldn't Want to books. And I like it when I've noticed not all of them do, but most of them have this timeline, which is really helpful for me also in deciding what I'm going to put on our timeline. So that's the name of the first emperor that I think it's Qin Shi Huangdi. Yeah. So these, again, they have kind of cartoonish pictures, but it makes it fun for the kids. And even though they're a little bit, they can be kind of gruesome and depressing because there's just some gross stuff, but the kids tend to like that. So see, like that. So if you have something that's really sensitive, or if you don't want to expose your kids to that, then don't get the You Wouldn't Want to books, but we enjoy them. This is an older book, I believe. This is The Great Wall of China, and it's actually a story of people working on the Great Wall. And so it's, you know, I think it's a living book in that way. So there's that one. This is The Emperor's Silent Army. And I don't think we read through this whole book because it's kind of long. It's, I think it's aimed at older, might even be aimed at adults. I'm not sure, but it's about this. So we actually used it more. We looked at the pictures and I kind of read the context of them. The Magic Treehouse book I just showed you here, I believe it's this one, also talks about these as well. And I believe they were mentioned in either Story of the World or History Quest, or both. So this was more just to like look at the images because I thought that was important as we did that. And then they could just look through it as they wanted. So for some reason, I thought this included the Great Wall, but it doesn't. And I think it's because the Great Wall is covered later. So you'll have seen this in some of my other videos. I stuck it here thinking that maybe the Great Wall was in here and I had forgotten, but yep, it's not. So just so you know. So this is by Demi, and this is a biography of Confucius. I have several Demi books. She's another author I really like. And she does a lot of religious figures, and religious and spiritual figures. So if you're looking for something like, I know she has Jesus. We have her book on Buddha. Other ones are escaping me at the moment, but we've read several of these. Okay, so it's a little longer. You're going to want to read these to your kids, and you could take, I think we might have taken two days to go through this, but this is about Confucius. Oh, I said I was going to come back to the Qilin, and he's in here somewhere. Okay, let me stop here for a second, because this is the Qilin that was in the Qilin purse book I showed you, and the kids really liked that. It's kind of like a dragon, lion, unicorn. So, Chinese style dragon. So yeah, it just tells the story of Confucius's life and a little bit about what Confucianism is about. And we also had Confucianism discussed in our Spines and Story of the World and History Quest. So this was just kind of to build on that. And it's really actually important as you're studying China to understand Confucianism, because it does shape some of the, it does end up shaping the government and some of the history of China. So I recommend that if you are studying China to learn a bit about Confucius and Confucianism. So these are the last two books. This is Grandfather Tang's story. And this is not set in ancient China. I think this is set more modern day. But I'm not, you know what? I'm not entirely sure where this is set. But it talks about, it shows you tangrams. It's Grandfather Tang telling a story about these foxes, and there's different animals, and they show you the animals made with tangrams. And so then the kids could go ahead and try to make the animals with the tangrams. I waited until they listened to the story first and then played with it, but you could like stop and have them do it. And then they show you here how you can actually just take a piece of paper and make tangrams. And there was also one you could print out and copy if you have the Story of the World activity book. Let me show you this book and then I'll get back to the tangrams. This is the Warlords puzzle. I actually really enjoyed this book because it's about tangrams, but it's also just a good story. And again, I am not sure at what point in China this takes place. It could be ancient. It could be more of like the Middle Ages. But it has, you know, there was a tile that broke into these pieces. And so they need somebody to be able to put them back together. And there's things happen. You just have to read the book. But I really enjoyed the book myself. And it also, like, you could trace this and copy it. It has it so you can make it as well. So those are the two books I have to go with it. And then I did end up getting this bucket. Oh, loud. And these are just Learning Resources plastic pattern blocks. And to be honest, these were not exactly what I wanted. They didn't end up in the exact shapes. So the kids did have fun playing with them, but I think were I to do it again, I would either find nicer, possibly wooden or another material tangrams, or just make my own by copying one of the resources I have and cutting them out. If you do it in like cardboard or chipboard or something, those would last longer. But I will link these just in case somebody's interested. And it you know, it's got lots of different shapes in here that the kids can make things with and play with. So there's that. For activities for this unit, I actually kept it pretty simple. We got a Discover China Ancient Dig Kit. My children love these dig kits. We've done them for in several areas. And this had in it a coin, a terracotta warrior, and a ritual wine cup. So there were just a few little trinkets in there. I just got one for them to share, and they worked together to get all the objects out. There are more activities you could do for this unit. For example, you could make terracotta soldiers. There's also some art that I had looked into doing, but much of it was later, so we're gonna actually save it for our upcoming year in studying Middle Ages China. And as usual, we put some relevant people and events on the timeline. My favorite is the Empress who discovered silk. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe below if you haven't. And if you want to make sure you don't miss my videos, you can also hit that little bell, it's notifications, so that will give you a notification when I post new videos. I hope you have so much fun studying ancient China with your kids. Until next time, talk to you later.